Hello, everyone. This is Malika and Audrey, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Unwind. This is episode 5.
Yes.
Episode 4 was with Malvika. We talked a lot about international expat experience,
Yeah.
her being in New York.
And like flying from New York to London and how it was just being an international like student / expat. Just basically, someone out of your own country and living in someone else's culture, right? It takes a lot to get used to another country's culture, another person's city, as long as it's not your own hometown. I think it takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of energy to move as well, right?
Yeah, and doing it twice, like that's a bit much.
Yeah.
But that was a lovely episode. I think it was a very relatable chat with like 3 girls with the same birth date. Today, we have someone even more special on the podcast. Someone I know very, very dear to my heart. Like we have Shruti Chaturvedi with us on this podcast. She's an impact entrepreneur. She is LinkedIn top 25 voices in India, a TEDx speaker, and like so many other things. She's someone who's not afraid to do what she stands for and basically start anything and everything that she believes in, and has impacted countless lives in India and beyond, and continues to do so even now.
A real power woman indeed.
Yes, and we have her today on Let's Unwind. We are very, very excited and looking forward to this conversation. We hope you are too. Shruti, welcome to Let's Unwind.
Thank you so much. And I love the vibe, and I also love the fact that both of you share your birthdays. Wow.
Oh yeah, we
We
do.
It's that's not.
This had to be the combination, yes.
I know. On our last podcast, we all discovered that like 2 of us plus our guest was
8th September.
exactly. So we're like,
Oh wow. that is really cool.
I know, it's amazing. Never would I have thought that I
Yeah.
would have 2 other girls with the same birthday.
Girls sharing the same birthday. You have the same Rashi, like how we say in India, and we are very, very particular about our signs in India with astrology and things like that. Yes.
Is
Yeah.
it a big thing in India?
Yeah, people read like
Oh,
horoscopes.
it's a huge thing. People don't get married if your charts don't match. So
Really?
people start their businesses. People name their businesses depending on the charts as well. So yeah, it's
That is even more.
Wow.
yes, yeah.
Name your business.
We name people based on their signs. We name our businesses based on the signs. We start our offices and everything based on the astrological charts.
Wow.
Everything.
Do you name your
Yeah.
business over the astrological charts?
No, I don't, but I know many people who do that.
Oh god! Wow.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Because the more you know, the more complicated it gets, right? So it's better to just not get into it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
that's
Let the universe do its thing.
Yeah.
That's true. But I mean, like, Malika talked about you being a serial entrepreneur and, like,
Yes.
you battling social norms and stuff like that. So, like, just to start with, like, just to give our audience an idea of, who you are, how you came to be. Would love to hear a bit about your story. And what you're doing now and what made you become the person you are today. Just a little background would be nice.
So, the background, I am from UP, Uttar Pradesh in India. I was born in a small village in Mundra in a state called Kutch in Gujarat, in a town called Kutch in Gujarat. And I was born in a government hospital. I come from a service background. My parents are working. My father's working. My grandfather was a principal, a school teacher. And that's where I was born. I came from that. I've had a fairly middle class upbringing, lower middle class to middle class. Like we were born, we were poor when I was born, and now at least we're probably upper middle class, we would say. So that's been our journey so far. In terms of my educational background, I studied from Gujarat. I was born and brought up completely in Gujarat, and I did my 12th. I studied science till my 12th grade, and then I picked up engineering because that was the trend, and everybody who did science, either you become a doctor or you become an engineer. And I didn't want to become a doctor, so the only next best thing available was to be an engineer, and I picked up engineering. I dropped out after 1 semester of engineering somehow because I just could not get myself to get into that bus and then go to the college and then come back. It was too depressing. I don't know why. And hats off to people who make good engineers. I just knew I would make a horrible engineer. And I mean, if I became a mechanical engineer or a civil engineer, and I was given the responsibility to make a bridge or something, probably it would be a disaster. So yeah, I decided I didn't want to do it. I decided one day, came back home, told my parents that I'm not going to the college from tomorrow anymore.
What did they say? Like, what was their reaction?
So in India, it's a huge taboo to not have a plan. Right, you need to have a plan constantly, because we as a country, we live in we come from survival, right? So you constantly need to have a plan about what next, and also because to get into engineering, to clear your competitive exams, India is also very competitive as a country. So for every single seat you are battling at least like 1 lakh applicants, right? So that one seat that I got was very, very important, and it had taken a lot of money also to be able to clear that exam and to get into that college. So of course, like, that was one of the biggest challenges that we had in the family, where okay, we have already spent so much money on this and you don't even know what you want to do next. I knew I didn't want to become an engineer. I didn't know what I wanted to become though. And I said, okay, I'm not going to the college from tomorrow. We'll figure out what I want to do. And I picked up humanities because again, I thought humanities, I was a science student through and through, and I had no idea about humanities. I just knew that this is something you can read and learn. So that was the easiest thing to do. And I picked up humanities. I did my bachelor's in psychology. And from the first day of my college, because I was such a clueless kid and I had already spent too much money of my parents in coaching and in a college where I did not study anymore, I started working from day one of my college. And because I didn't still know what I wanted to do, I picked up psychology because I knew psychology is, as a subject, is something I can apply anywhere I go. Yeah. I go into management, I can apply psychology. I go into anything, any field whatsoever. So it was very generic as a subject. So I picked that up and I started doing internships. So from the first day of my college, I planned myself a 24-month plan where every 2 months I wanted to do a different internship in a different company in a different department. So from accounts to HR to marketing to sales, I've done everything. You name it, I've done it. Karte karte, I ended up in media, in journalism, and that was my internship with Times of India, which is a very big publication here in India. By the time I finished that internship, I had finished my graduation, and again the question is what next? And I somehow found my kick in media, and there was this news channel opening up in my city, and I'd applied for an internship there, and somehow I got selected as a news anchor, and I was the first 7 news anchors of their channel, and probably the youngest one back then. And I started doing a lot of political content, political journalism, and I started with crime, and then I got into politics, and I got into newsroom debates and things like that. And with that experience, I learned a lot of journalism. I also learned a lot of production and marketing and advertisements and how the whole organization works as such. And I worked there for 2 years, and then because in India, again, like, you graduate, then you do your masters. There is no concept of a gap in between. If there is a gap, you get married. So yeah, I had to keep myself constantly. I always needed an excuse to constantly do something. And I went to my parents. I cleared my MBA entrance exams as well. And I went to my parents and I told them that, okay, I need 1 year because I've started this blog called Chai Pani. It was a blog. It was a simple, free of cost blog that I had started. And I said, I've started this blog where I post all the stories that my media house rejects because they are not very TRP friendly. So the more negative the news in general globally, right? The more negative, the more triggering the news, the more views it gets. And that's why news media in general only puts out triggering news. And I used to do a lot of inspiring content also of people who were doing really good work in their fields, who were doing really good social impact work, who had very personal inspiring stories as well, and simple people. And those stories would get rejected from my media house because they were not very TRP friendly. And I started putting those stories on a blog that I had started, and somehow that blog rocketed to like 25,000 subscribers in like 4 months. Wow. Yeah, and that's when I figured that, okay, this is something that has an audience. And I didn't know how the business model as such would work, but I told my parents, okay, give me 1 year, let me do this as a project. And I've already cleared my CAT. So in India, for MBA, you have to clear this exam called CAT. And I'd already cleared my CAT, which is a lot of logic and maths and things like that. And I said, okay, I'm not going to forget it. So next year I'll give CAT again if this does not work out. Just give me 1 year to do whatever the fuck I want to do.
Yeah.
And that was the deal I made. And that's how Chai Pani started as a media platform which published stories of people who are doing great work, who were especially working in the field of entrepreneurship and social impact. And as it grew, it's almost been 7-8 years now. Chai Pani started, and now it's a full-fledged marketing and a media platform. We're about 45 people who work out of Goa and Ahmedabad, and also remotely across the country. So that's how my first startup came about. Just last in 2022, I started this new company called India Action Project, where so while I was working in Chai Pani, I was also doing a lot of elections. I was also, because elections I think is the great way to know your country, to know how the last mile citizen actually thinks about, because when we get into that privileged bubble, we think very, very urban, we think very, very it's like an echo chamber, right? And the moment you want to get out of the echo chamber, you have to go on the ground, and elections are the best way to go about that. So I started somehow the opportunity came to do campaigns for some elections, and I started with that. And while I was working, I actually saw the kind of problems that rural India in general faces, where employment is one of very big factors. So India has a huge employment problem. So that's why I picked up India Action Project, where we started working with companies that wanted to penetrate into rural India and give up job opportunities to people in the rural markets without having to relocate to the urban cities. So India Action Project has now we have given jobs to about 1,200 people who are working every day. We call them Digi Sathis, yes. And they're earning about 11 to 12,000 rupees a month, which is a significant amount in rural areas.
120 pounds a month, which is a lot more than a lot of people in offices earn.
Yes. So on average, India's probably income in the unorganized sector would be about 6 to 7,000 rupees, and this is double of that. Yeah.
60, 70 pounds a month in India,
Yes.
on average.
Yes.
Oh my god! Wow. But
Yes.
is it like the?
So in India, if you earn anywhere above 25,000 rupees, you come in the upper middle class. Yeah, you're considered rich.
A month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's a huge disparity in terms of income. So the rich are too rich, the poor are too poor, and the middle class just keeps struggling between the two.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that disparity is something that we're trying to bridge, where there are. And because India as a country is also growing, it's a high demography, it's high consumer demographic as well, right? Like we consume a lot.
Yeah.
And the aspirations are growing, the income is growing. So there are companies, there are organizations that want to penetrate into rural India. There are people in rural India who don't have work to do. So it was a very easy bridge to make. That okay, these are companies who want to enter rural markets. There are people in rural markets who want to work. So we put both of them together, and that's how we are creating employment in India.
Wow. Okay. And
Yes.
how did that happen? Like, was it an idea that spurred from out of the moment, or you realized it through Chapani when you were doing these stories as well, and through the
Yes, so the more I traveled, the more I met people in rural India, the more I realized that if as a country we need to grow, we need to put our population to work. And there are too many young people who are doing literally nothing. They wake up every day, and also because India has an internet revolution, so everybody has internet on their phones. So it's very easy for youth to be diverted into wrong directions if they do not have something productive to do. And most of the people who get into wrong directions are people who don't have anything to do, because there is no work. Yeah. And that's when I saw this as an opportunity, that these are people who know how to use a mobile phone, they know how to use internet, they know how to use applications. So why not get them work where they can start earning a livelihood out of it? So the more I traveled, the more I saw the unemployment and how it was also ruining the whole generation, right? Especially the Gen Z. There's no concept of Gen Z in rural India though, but that as a generation, and if you put a high energy individual who has high intellect as well, and you put them idle, it is very, very likely that they will take the wrong direction. So we wanted to solve that also as a problem. And I see India's youth, because they're very smart now, they're very intelligent, they're very smart, they're very street smart as well. So if we want to grow the economy, it is very important that everybody is put to work.
That's that?
So that's how the idea came about. And I was through Chai Pani, because I was also working with so many organizations who were our advertisers. I also knew that there is a marketing and sales need for these people to get into rural markets. So I realized that as an individual, I had the capacity to put the organizations and the people together and make a bridge between them. So we skill these people on what the organizations would want, how do you work for them, how do you do your job roles and things like that. We also help the organizations understand how the grassroots Bharat works. So there is an India and there is a Bharat, and Bharat is very different from how India works. So we also educate organizations on how do you penetrate into rural markets. You can't be sitting in a metro city and making a marketing or a sales plan on how to enter a small village in Bareilly. It doesn't work like that. You have to think like a person in Bareilly.
Wow, that's amazing. Like, wow, that was a lot. Let me just
Yeah.
It's so.
Did I just overwhelm you with too much?
No, I think like you overwhelmed me, but in a very like inspiring way. I think you're one of the. In fact, you are probably the first social entrepreneur that we had on this podcast. Yeah, like,
nice.
yeah, like, like doing some. I'm not saying that everyone else is doing not for good, but like, you are really like, trying to contribute back to the economy, trying to contribute back to people, right, and build a better economy and community for India. And I think that's really
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think the more dignified the source of income for people, the better. I think because people don't want charity anymore. People want a dignified way of making money. The kind of self-esteem, the kind of respect it boosts in a person when they have a dignified source of income. I think that is what we work on very primarily. We don't work on charities. We don't work on giving one-time aids and things like that. It's very sustainable way of making money.
But also, like, when I heard your story, Shruti, like, I think since the beginning, like, it seemed like you did not run after what I think most of people like run after, especially in their 20s, which is money, which is like having a very good job, like having that safety net. Like, whenever I heard your story, like, you just did not run after like the normal societal norms. You ran after things that you truly cared about.
Yeah.
I'm wondering like how that happened. Like, it was like, for example, like, it's very like not think in a
So,
way to be thinking of.
Yeah, I think as a person and as my nature, I don't really operate on other people's timelines in general. Like what is expected, like, okay, this is expected in your early 20s, this is expected in your late 20s. It's not in my nature to operate on other people's timelines, so I work on my own pace. I think one very good safety net that I had is from my parents, for sure. That at least I knew that if this does not work out, one, I had a safety net of my education, I had safety net of my experience, and I had safety net of my parents. So I had 3 safety nets. I knew that if this does not work out, I can still find a job and at least make 40,000-50,000 a month, which is the good enough money for me to survive. I knew that if that does not happen, I can still go back home and there will be at least like 2 meals a day and a place to live. So that is also a safety net to have. So I think it's very important for people to in general be very I am not very much in favor of dropping out in general, because I think education gives you that kind of a safety net, and not just education, plus experience. I had enough contacts while I was working 3 years of my college. I made enough contacts that I knew that I won't be jobless for one day. Even if none of my startups work out, even if I go bankrupt, I can still find a job tomorrow. Right. So I think that's the kind of safety net we have to create eventually. For sure, I mean, I would give credit to my parents, which I don't think a lot of kids in India get, is the kind of safety net that, okay, you can still come back. Like, there's a home for you.
I think it's very important to have that, that feeling.
Yeah, and I think it is very important to also run behind money. Like, you need to make enough money, because I very strongly believe that, you can't give what you don't have. So how do I help the poor if I am poor?
Yeah.
Right. So you have to make so there's a very Gujju way of going about things. So I'm from Gujarat, right? And like my brain works like a Gujarati, and for a Gujarati, money comes first, business comes first, and anything, all you have to do is just make sure that the impact and business are going together. Right? Like, money is not coming on the way of creating a sustainable impact, and that's what an impact venture is. So when you also like go in the funding market and things like that, one of the metrics that I don't think most businesses keep as a primary metrics to measure your success is impact, which in our company we have to, because we are a impact venture. We are not a charity, we are not an NGO, we are an impact venture.
Yeah. But on top of that, though, I want to bring us back to, when Malika brought up the point about, like dropping out of school when you were in your early 20s and you really didn't know what to do, right? I mean, that said, right, even though you dropped out of engineering, you did eventually pursue a bachelor's in psychology. So that said, you still pursued an education that would benefit you in the long run and benefit what you like.
Yeah.
But between then, like you said, you took psychology out of a safety net, right? Because you knew it could fit everything, and at the same time also you tried different careers, right? You tried everything from accounting to marketing to advertising to media as you were then, like, but just want to run me through, like, how did you feel? I'm pretty sure you felt really lost at that point. You must have felt like
very much. I mean, and I think everybody in their early 20s at some point this comes in as a phase where you feel really lost, and because everybody else seems to be like, at least as a visual optics, that everybody is settled, and settled is a huge delusion, right? Like, how do you measure settled? And you constantly, even, and not just 20s, I still feel that sometimes, like when you see lives of other people, especially with social media, especially you see, because everybody is just posting their achievements and how well they are doing in life and things like that, you tend to also measure your life with theirs, and you try to see, okay, where am I and where are they? So yeah, you do feel lost when all your friends are probably graduating and you are still figuring out what I want to do. And yeah, I mean, it's very difficult, but in the long run, I think trusting the gut and trusting your intuition has, I mean, nothing beats that. Nothing. Like, if I had not like held my ground that day at my house, and there was this huge fight, I went on a fast. I didn't eat for like 3 days. I was like, I'm not eating if you don't tell me that, okay, you are letting me pull out of engineering. Yeah, it was a huge thing in my house. So and had I not done that, probably I'd be my life would have been very different today than what it is today. And I'm just so glad that I did what I did. And in that moment, it feels like the world is crumbling and everything is coming down and you're doing the wrong thing, but it's just 2-3 years later you realize it was the best decision of my life. And I still say that, like, dropping out of engineering was the first best decision I took for myself.
But didn't you go to like IIT, like Delhi? Like that was like one of those renowned universities in
Mumbai.
India.
Yes.
So like, did you have your friends tell you like you're making the wrong decision, or were your friends very
No,
supportive?
actually everybody was pretty on board that if we could do that, we would have also done that. So because everybody is living a very it's just difficult in general to survive in an IIT or an IIM for that matter. Also, I don't think most people do engineering because they think they make good engineers, or they genuinely love being engineers. So I don't see a point of doing anything. Even today, I don't do anything, even if for 1 day I wouldn't do anything that does not give me joy. If I have to do accounts today, if I have to sit with my bank statements today, it has to give me joy. So I think joy in daily life is very important for me, and to spend 4 years of my life doing something that does not give me joy, that only gives me more validity and more credibility in the outside world, that, oh, she's an engineer from IIT or whatever college. I don't think I would give 4 years of my life to make others happy. No.
Right. But just a question for me, because like I think in all aspects, right, we're all the guests that we had on our podcast, right, there were different people who went to pursue other things amongst the things that they were doing, or dropped what they were doing to go and pursue something else. But I think the common theme that we're facing right now is that they've all had the support and the safety net of like the parents, our friends, the close ones around us. And, we are in a very privileged position to have that safety net, because not a lot of people have that, right? Like, what do you have any, like the little, do you have any advice for those people like who want to make a difference, right? Who want to do something that brings them the joy that they want to do, but do not have that safety net for them? Like, do you have any advice?
No, of course, you have to build your safety net first. I would not advise anybody to go all in without having the basics met, right? Like, I had, with 3 years of my job, I had at least accumulated enough money for myself with my salaries and with my stipend that I could survive for 1 year at least without doing anything, or I could fund my business to start with, right? So I think it's very important that everyone should have And you know, sometimes you don't get a safety net, you have to build a safety net. You have to build a support system of your friends, you have to build a support system of like good mentors, you have to chase people and you have to get them on board with what you want to do. And even with parents, I don't think a lot of times you might not get a safety net of finances for that matter, but at least you need emotional safety net, that okay, emotionally we are there with you. And I in general think, I think again, like, you can't give what you don't have. So if you don't have a safety net, how you're always constantly going to operate from a space of insecurity. So it's very important that you work on your security first and then build something external. So I think inside building is too important initially. So yeah, have safety net of your education, have safety net of like enough experience of what you are doing, and a safety net of like good supporters, like good people who can come together if you do tend to crumble. And you, when you start your companies, you crumble a lot. So it's emotionally, mentally, physically, every which way it is very, very, it takes a toll on you. So, and you constantly need those people who put you back up.
No, I agree. I relate so much to your story because I left my job in tech sales. I was a finance major, got into sales, and now doing marketing in Dubai, like very soon. And luckily, my parents are like doing.
And that's going to be amazing, because you know, this uncertainty itself is very exciting for some people. I think for me, it's very exciting. Like, I get into fields I have no idea about.
You know, and that's what I want to ask you about, Shruti, because you said like you did like every industry that you could potentially think of in your 3 years in university.
Yeah.
And for me, like, although part of me is like, I think I want to do marketing, I'm not really sure if I would find happiness in marketing. It's a trial shot. But you went through so many different departments. Like, did you ever question, like, am I really wasting my time here? Like, will I ever find something that I truly enjoy?
No, I did not, because I was still doing better than my peers. Because they were, after college, they were chilling in the canteen, and at least I was figuring what I wanted to do. And I think that also gave me a sense of doing something. Like, you're 24 right now, you're 24, 25 right now. At least you are figuring it out. Maybe marketing won't be your calling. Maybe you will go to Dubai and realize, okay, this is not my calling, and you still have enough time to find out something else. And also there is this whole concept of time, like, who decides when is the time to find something, right? Like, maybe tomorrow you realize you want to do finance, maybe tomorrow you realize you want to get into fashion design. Who cares? We do whatever, like, you know, it's one life. We are just doing, I consider of it all as like extracurricular activities in life, right? Just to keep our minds busy, because we're born, we're going to die. What do you do in between? You do something. So we constantly just keep doing something or the other. As long as you are taking care of yourself financially, you are not a burden on anyone. You are living a good life, I think, and you are hopefully able to create some impact in somebody else's life. I think that is good enough.
Yeah, I think she just talked about, like, if you're doing something, at least you're taking a step towards finding what you want to. I think that's
exactly
what you need to think of. It's a mindset.
Yeah, all you need.
And maybe you will not get where you want to get, but the whole joy has to be the part of doing, in the process of doing.
Exactly, the trust process.
Yeah.
And how do you face any, like, you know, you, of course, you know, from being from that, you know, dropout and not knowing what to do all the way to who you are today, there must have been a lot of setbacks and challenges that you face building your own business and building the things that you do. Like, can you just, like, you know, what were some of them? What was the most difficult moments in your life, and how do you overcome them, you know?
I think those difficult things keep coming. I think it happens in every entrepreneur's, everybody's life in general. I mean, even if you're doing a job, it keeps happening. Like, sometimes you have money, sometimes you have no money. And I have been in those times where I have not had enough money. The salary date is like 10 days away and you have zero balance and like 20-30 lakhs in debt. And how do you pay the debt? How do you pay your salary? They're like 40-50 team members. How do you pay them? And because for them, it is the only primary source of income, right? And their families depend on their salaries. So those are those days, and I think if you just put your head down and something or the other, you will figure out. And I think entrepreneurship is very adventurous and it's very dopamine inducing that way, because there's always this constant rush of doing something, figuring something out, because every single day you wake up and there is something wrong with everything. So yeah, I think the whole joy is in figuring that out. I think in general, raising funds for that matter, when I was doing my first round of funding for Chai Pani, I was 23 and I was a girl, and that's a very tricky place to be in general for any investor to be putting money in you. So yeah, and when you are raising for your first company at a very early stage, most people are putting money in you rather than the business, right? So I had to I had to raise just 1 crore rupees, which is not a significant amount to raise now at this point in time. But back then, 1 crore was like a huge, huge amount for me. I'd never seen that much money ever in my life. I'd not even seen 10% of that money in my life. And to go to people who are, these are men, okay, and these are old men, and and they are
Very great description there, Shruti.
yeah, and to be able to deal with them and to be able to, because either they're sleazy about it or they're looking at you like a kid, right? And you have to walk that thin line between that okay, I am probably your daughter's age, I'm probably your son's age, but I am also good enough to be trusted to put your money in, right? And yeah, I mean, also to make sure that they don't cross that line, which they always do, most of them. And yeah, I think that's a very tricky phase to be in general. So yeah, of course, raising funds was challenging, but I think a very humbling experience. I would love to do that again in my life every time. Yeah, because sometimes you get so humiliated. Sometimes, when things don't turn the way you wanted, especially when you are young and you get success too fast, things get onto your head.
Yeah.
And when you go in the market actually, like in Hindi we say, आपको औकात दिखा देता है market आपकी. So when you go in the markets, you probably see where actually you stand and what are the kind of questions that people will have, because money in general drives the whole human race, right? And it's the most important resource in general for people, and that tends to bring out the best and the worst out of people as well. So yeah, I think those are some challenges. Other than that, I think I've been fairly very independent in general. Yes, there is physical toll on things, mental and emotional, definitely. You have no personal life, you have no and I think I tell more entrepreneurs now to have a personal life in their 20s as well, even if they are starting up. Because you get so consumed by things. There was a point where I used to work like 14-15 hours a day, and by the time I was 29, I was a diabetic. So because my lifestyle was so bad, and I was the stress levels were so high. I had blood pressure, I had diabetes, which in the last 1.5 year I've reversed all of it. But yes, also because you get so consumed behind building something, right? And that's like your baby. That's actually what happens to mothers, actually, when you talk about postpartum depression and things like that, because you are just so involved in one thing, everything else is falling apart, and you don't even want to look at those things that are falling apart till one day it all comes on your head.
Yeah.
That okay, everything is falling apart. So yeah, I mean, personal life, sure. Emotional life, yes. Physical well-being, for sure, crumbled a lot. These were some challenges. Other than that, social challenges, something I think being a girl in India in general makes you very immune to social challenges. They don't even look like challenges anymore. It's just normal. Like, we wake up every day and it's like, okay, fine. Like, okay, this is just every woman and every Indian woman going through it.
Yeah.
So we just learn to live with it. Malika comes from Patna, I think, and it's Bihar she comes from. So, I mean, she would have too much to talk about it in general, right? Like, we just wake up and face all of these things, and it's just very normalized
It
for
becomes
us.
a new normal for you because you're a girl. And
Yeah,
in that world, that is a sign for
It's like how you're having coffee every morning, it becomes like that. Social stigma has become that.
For it. It's wild.
Wow.
And it's very difficult to like do something like that by yourself. Like, I've always had partners when I've started something, especially like in London.
Yeah.
Like, being in India and starting something at 23 seems like just too much to handle for someone.
Yeah.
Well done, at least. So
And probably your parents won't have that much as a problem with that as much as your extended families would. Or
100%. I think that's a social norm of it all. Like, and I think that's one of the things I want to talk to you about as well. Like, in India, like, your nuclear family would be supportive and be like, I'm then standing right behind you.
Yeah.
There's so many people, their friends, who just ask about what your daughter is doing and like why is she not pursuing engineering and XYZ. Like, have they ever like told you what have they heard from their friends or like questioned you on what?
So this is one thing about my parents, and especially my father, that I usually talk about in any interviews in general. They are like this very solid protective shield for me now. So they get to hear a lot of things, and not 1% of it also penetrates to me. They have protected me so much from everybody, because I think every parent knows their child, right? And they knew what kind of child we have given birth to, and they just knew that this child has to be protected because she's going to do what she wants to do anyway. But yes, there are those times when close family members say like really terrible things when when you're starting up. And when I was doing my job and I was a reporter and I had to be out all night, like probably I'd come sometimes at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then 6 o'clock I had my college. 6 o'clock I had to leave for my college because 8 o'clock my college would start, and my college was like half an hour away from my house. So that when, and those are the times when they see you and they will tell your parents, okay, I think your daughter's doing something wrong and she's into wrong company and things like that. All of those things come, and I think it's up to the maturity, because at that age you can't fight for yourself so much, and you need that kind of support system, at least from two people who've given birth to you. Right, more than anything you just need these two people standing by you, trusting in you, believing in you. And I think even that trust itself makes you never want to fuck it up. Right, like, okay, like these people have given me, at least this shield is good enough for me to grow. Like, don't give me support, it's fine, just shield me from external. So they are like this noise cancellation devices that don't let the outside noise come in general. But yeah, people tend to say a lot of things. Even today people would say, still like, look at your lifestyle on social media and you're traveling and you are with men and you are doing things. And I remember this one time when this woman told me, who was very insecure because I worked with a husband. And she told me that, so in Hindi we say कि इस लड़की ने घाट घाट का पानी पिया है. So which means to say like she's very, like she's been with everyone and everywhere. And I took it as a matter of pride that at least मैंने घाट घाट का पानी पिया है, and I know what every घाट looks like, what every river bank looks like. So it's a joke that I post on my social media every time to irritate people like that मैंने घाट घाट की चाय पी है. Because some women, like sometimes they tend to use it against you, your exposure, your experience, your contacts, they tend to use it against you. And I think we have to own it up that, okay, I am very well exposed, I'm very well connected, and at least I'm not sitting in my house and living on somebody else's money.
And we've looked at your Instagram as well, Shruti, and you're very open about what you believe in. You're very opinionated, and we're very free to like express that on social platforms.
Yes.
It is not a very easy thing to do, especially when you like have controversial opinions sometimes, right?
Oh yes.
So where does that confidence come from in terms of, I will say what I believe in, come what may, we will see what
Because noise cancellation, yaar, it's too solid. My whole noise cancellation system is too solid, and my internal validation system is also very solid. So I don't do a single thing in my entire day or say a single thing in my entire day to make anybody else feel nice. It has to make me feel good. And if sometimes if what I say makes you feel good, and if that makes me feel good, I would say that. But nothing. I won't even eat something if it makes you happy. I mean, it has to make me happy. To say something has to, and there are certain opinions that come so strongly that you're like, no, I want to talk about it. Nobody wants to hear it, it's fine, but I want to say it. Yeah. So I think my noise cancellation system is my biggest, I think, personality trait, I would say. I think I hear nothing from outside.
It's a big strength.
Yeah, huge.
Of course.
I don't see comments. Especially on Twitter, once I've tweeted, there are people who there's a tab where you can only see replies from people who follow you, who you follow. I only see that if I have to. Otherwise, all my notifications on my phones are off. So I don't see a single comment that I get. I don't see a single reply to any of the tweets, because for me it's important for me to say. It's not important for me to hear what others are saying about what I said. It's your problem. You deal with it. No, but I think it has affected a lot sometimes, and sometimes I deactivate my social media. And there are these really weird things, like today, because we're talking about it, just last week there were 3 men who came to my office because one of them probably was just very obsessed with me and they just wanted to meet me, and they came to the office, which was still okay, and I was not in the office, and somehow something about them was very off, and then we found out, and the police found them out because the way they behaved in my office with everybody, the way they went into places, because one of these guys was very obsessed on social media that had a local goon to find out my schedule and when do I leave the office, when do I come to the office, where my office is, and things like that. And when the police found out, we found about 200 photos of me on their mobile phone. They had all the information about me. So those kind of things tend to happen. And I think as a women, I think probably one thing that I tell to other girls also, especially who are doing business, because when you're doing business, you have to have a public profile now, right? It was very different earlier, but now with this generation of it, you have to have a very public profile. Everybody knows where I am. So I never post anything on social media real time. Everything that is posted is at least 2-3 hours away after I've left that place. So because there have been cases where people have reached places because I posted about it, and then they'll DM you saying, "Oh, I've come here. I saw that you have posted from this place and you're not here." So, and this just happened like 3-4 days back, and it was so disturbing after I found out the kind of information they had on me on their mobile phones. And they were just genuinely 3 men who are obsessed about me. Nothing else. I don't know if they meant harm, if they did not mean harm, and things like that. But they had so much information on their mobile phone about me. I deactivated my Instagram for like 4-5 days. It's like I can't deal with it. Yeah, and then you eventually realize that okay, no, like running away is not the solution. And sometimes there have been times where my opinions have also troubled people, and in general in India, the people have become too sensitive about political and social opinions of people, especially coming from women.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to safeguard yourself now, and I hope it didn't become that, but it is what it is now. But yeah, it's very important for me. But it is now at this point, everybody is very respectful with me on social media, which I really like. Even if they want to abuse me, they still put a ma'am at the end of the curse word. So I'm like, हाँ तुमको गाली देना है तो तुम दे दो. Just be respectful about it.
Yeah, but I think
because everybody needs an outlet, and I genuinely feel for them because their hormones are too hyper. So and I'm like, it's okay. My DMs are open. You can vent out whatever you want.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but I think it's very normal for for you to have an open profile, right? For people to see, especially if you are offer a certain if you offer for a certain following count, if you offer a certain status in the society, I think it's very normal that people will idolize you or see you as someone they
idolizing is still one thing. Stalking and obsessing is another thing.
Of course.
Yeah.
So,
and there are people, and I'm very open in general to anybody who wants to meet. They DM me. I mean, at this point, thanks to my social media, and I will give a lot of credit to social media for my business journey as well. Like I found the best of the people from social media, my best of the friends I found from social media, because thanks to social media you're not limited to your geography, right? Like you can find anyone anywhere and connect with them and work with them. So in general we operate from place of trust, right? That I will trust everyone I talk to on social media, and then it is onto that person how you keep that trust or not. So, but in general, I think it's a challenge, not just for me. I mean, I'm still very, very insignificant. There are people who are like proper influencers and they have huge social media following and all sorts of things keep happening. But especially if you're doing business, it's very open because I do my meetups, I do my meetings, and all of these things are announced on social media that I'm going to be in this place at this time. So, yeah, I mean, again, like the more jobless the people are, the more they do this. So we have India Action Project to solve that. Don't stop me, find a job. I'll get you a job, just work.
The solution to all problems: get people a job.
Get a job. Yeah, just get a job. You will not care about what I'm wearing, how I'm looking, how many times I've repeated my clothes. Nothing you will care about. You just do your job. Because it's mostly those people, right, who have so much of mental bandwidth also. Like in India, it's very normal to comment on somebody on how they look or what they're wearing or their size of their bodies or the color of their skin. It's just too normal.
Yeah, I think in India people judge a lot, and I think for them like it's a point of like a normal conversation. If you come to a party, like they would scan the room and they look at every.
Yes.
I'm a girl. I would look at every woman in the room, and not me. Like I don't do this. This is me generally. And you like scan. Oh my god! Like she might have bought this from like this brand. Oh my god, that's like. Oh my god, that's cheap.
Oh yes.
Like, that's so expensive. She's looking so nice.
So it's I would say it's a very. I wouldn't go so far, but to put it very bluntly, a very judgmental community.
It is quite judgmental.
Also because it's mostly judgments mostly come from people who have too much time on their hands and too much mental bandwidth. So mostly people who are not working, who are depending on somebody else's income. These are mostly and I wouldn't go to the extent of saying dependent women in general, but yeah, mostly women who don't have jobs to do. are the ones who will keep a note. They'll also keep a note of what you're wearing, and they will tell you the next time you wear the same thing, you won't remember what you wore at the last event and if you're repeating it, but they will point it out that, oh, you wore this thing at that event. I'm like, okay, maybe, probably. I'm not going to buy a new outfit for every event, right? So
But would you say that, like, I mean, for someone to have a judging personality and judging character, right? It's, I mean, yeah, for those people who have a bit more time on their hands, they have more time to be, to be this way, right?
Yeah.
Like, even for working adults and stuff like that, I think, like, with social media, with all this flaunting going on, like, regardless of whether you have a job or not, I think people have just started to develop
very much.
like,
And obsessed over everyone.
And somehow people have started to feel very entitled that I can give an opinion on this.
Yeah.
Like they started to feel that, okay, I sit in a place of authority where I can comment on this person or their relationship or their lives or what they're doing with everything, which we wouldn't do in normal physical life. In an offline world, which it's so easy in an online world also, because you can be anonymous, you can hide behind a personality, you probably don't have to come out, nobody will ever know, so it's very easy for anybody to say anything to anyone. So, and I think that also comes out of a whole generation that is so frustrated with their personal lives, with their own real lives, that it's just an outlet to give that that opinion. And that's why, again, like, I keep emphasizing on noise cancellation, because you have to see people as just hormones and nervous system now. Because these are not probably bad people, they are not evil people, they are just operating out of a place of a lot of insecurity, and their nervous system is reacting, and their hormones are berserk everywhere, and they're feeling very low about themselves, because these are mostly those people who project their insecurities on you by judging you. Because the moment I judge you, I put myself on a pedestal, that I am in an authority, I'm in a position of authority to judge you. So I think people in general have, yeah, but I think the more people become judgmental, the more we suck joy out of our own lives. Like, if I am judgmental about everything, I am sucking joy out of my life.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna ask you a very controversial question here, probably towards you. Like, I think because you talk about, like, people, because of social media now, right? It's, people feel very much entitled to their own opinions. There are a lot of, like, there's a lot of feelings within them, then they project, from insecurity or for whatever they're feeling, right? What's the difference between their opinions, and because you talk about that you also post your opinions online without, really filtering anything, because, you want to get your thoughts out there, right? So what's the difference between those kind of comments of, like, from feelings of judgment and insecurity versus your feelings of, that's your opinions too. Everyone has their own opinions.
I don't want anybody to agree to my opinion. That's the only difference, that this is my opinion, and my opinions are I'm very easy to change my opinion if the facts are changing.
Yeah, right.
I have no shame in changing my opinion. And I don't necessarily want everyone to agree or anyone to agree with my opinion, that this is what my opinion is. You may agree or you may not agree. I don't have to agree and I don't have to disagree, but that does not make us enemies. That will not make me say bad things to you. That will not make me say evil things to you. That will not make me make hate speech or a sexual comment about you. Right, so I think that's the difference, where I have my opinion and I will put it out. You have your opinion, you have your own platform, your own account, you put it out. We don't necessarily have to fight each other. We can all coexist, because the 7 billion people, right? Like, not everybody is going to have the same opinion. As the 7 billion people, 7 billion opinions in general. So I think we can only put out our opinions with our facts, and as facts change, if somebody says, okay, your factual information is wrong, and I'm like, okay, sorry, I'm very, on my social media, if you'll go, I say sorry very easily. If I'm wrong, I will just say sorry. In general, in my life also, I'm very open to that, because I know that I can't be right about everything all the time.
But I think another big difference, Audrey, I think, is because if someone is, like, posting reels or anything, they're posting it on their account. I think a lot of people who come, they don't really post things on their account, as opposed to, like, message on other people's account. And I think that's where insecurity comes from as well, because I am someone who loves making reels as well, and, like, it takes a lot of courage to, like, not care about what even your friends say about how you look on camera, or, like, what sort of, like, looking lame or looking creepy or, like, looking like acting childish or cringy. But a lot of
and you look lame, you're like, it's my lame, I am lame, mujhe maza aaya.
Not, like, even be secure enough to be like, it is my personality, like, take it or leave it.
And probably, like the TEDx we spoke about, right? Like, today I look at that and it feels really lame, but on that day it was really my best. So probably like 6 years later, 7 years later, you'll go back to certain opinion and it will look very lame and very stupid. But okay, it was my opinion 6, 7 years back.
Yeah.
And I was very proud of it.
At that point, and
And-
you encouraged to put it out, which not a lot of
Yeah.
people do, even today when social media is so big,
Of course.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Again, like we have to be very mindful that, again, we're not comparing our lives with lives of other people, our timelines with timelines of other people in general. It's very, very important to do that because it fucks with your mind really big time.
Of course.
Like sometimes I think most depressive episodes or most anxiety inducing episodes also somehow have come from social media to me. Right.
No, it's
Yeah.
true.
really
They
does,
create
yeah.
that platform of comparison of like, oh, everyone's
Yes.
doing so.
And look what it's done to dating, right? Like people dating in general, the kind of information, the kind of options, I don't think we were wired for so much. In general, our bodies were not wired for so much, our brains were not wired for so much. And it's just too much all the time now.
Yeah.
even our expectations from our relationships have changed so much because of what we see online in terms of
What we see online, and it's mostly 99% of the times it's all false. It's all
It's all
a
for sure.
facade.
it is
all for
truly
show,
for
yeah.
sure. Like we don't know what's going on behind that camera and behind that picture.
Yes.
So it's-
Exactly.
And and every meme page, everything will tell you, okay, this is a green flag, this is a red flag, this is a purple flag, this is a blue flag. Yeah, and you're just putting those flags on everyone without realizing what flag are you. Like, am I a red flag? Maybe I'm the red flag.
It's like here you are judging everyone, but like, oh, maybe I'm the red
because
flag.
this meme page or this psychologist on social media said, okay, this is a green flag, this is a red flag, maybe this is a green flag or a red flag. You're not thinking for your own life because everyone's realities are so different, our expectations are so different, our natures are so different.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it generally fucks with our mind. So I think I have limited my time spent on social media so much that I consume very little on social media. I only post. I will post and I will come out of the app, and because all the notifications are off, I don't even go back to it.
That's very
ideal.
ideal.
Yeah, it's very difficult to do, like not doom scroll today, but like that's the idea.
Yeah, because either you're scrolling vertically, you're scrolling horizontally, you're constantly it's just great workout for our thumbs for that matter. You're just scrolling. There was a point where I could not sleep without scrolling. I mean, I had to keep scrolling till I go to sleep, and I think that was very problematic.
We really talked about
Yeah,
this a
that's
lot.
a topic we talked about because we were just saying like, especially when I first left my job, right? I had nothing to do, so all I did was just
No
kept
job.
scrolling.
Again, it comes to having no
And
job.
the guilt that comes with it, where you are realizing that you're doing something wrong, there is a guilt about it, and you still can't stop because these platforms have been designed in a way that, and I don't think it's a mistake because these platforms have like thousands of psychologists and design engineers who are working on making them so addictive that we can't leave. And I don't think it's even our faults at this point. The people, it's like muscle memory now, right? Like if like 1 minute, half a second, if there is something empty, we just go on Instagram and scroll.
Yeah, exactly.
I used to be so addicted. Like my phone. I was just telling Malika like a few weeks ago. My screen time was like on Instagram, like on average 3 hours.
Mine's 5. It's
Wow.
horrible. It's
5?
Can you imagine? Like, I
God.
told you I have an issue. We were talking about this.
How did you get rid of? Is it still that much?
It's you have to.
Is it still 5?
No, now it's 2 or 3. But like, it's literally about like again. It's
How do you check on our phone? What's the screen time on Instagram now?
My phone's charging right now, but recently I just checked. My screen time on
26
Instagram is 30 minutes. I deleted Instagram off my phone. I mean not off my phone, but off my homepage. That's how I reduced it.
Very nice. I put a limit as well because memes and reels have this tendency, right? You keep scrolling, and everything is so relatable because of the algorithm and how it understands us. So I have put a limit on the app. There's this feature on iPhone where you can limit the time spent on the app, and the app won't work otherwise. So
can't you change it yourself? Because I have a limit as well, but like I can just ignore it.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah,
just put the code and do it, and you will eventually keep doing it. Yeah,
That's the whole
Ramika,
point.
there is no solution to that.
Yeah, but it's psychology.
There
It's
should be like
willpower.
a hard stop to something, right? That you can't even put a code and open the app again.
We should like probably have that. Like,
Yeah.
probably give us
I'm
like
pretty sure there's a setting that allows you to lock the app.
No, you can't physically.
You can lock
an
the app, but you still can unlock. Your brain knows that I can unlock, right? Like I know the code and I can just unlock. So who are we fooling? We are competing with ourselves here.
Exactly.
The key is to have someone
Else
else
lock
do the
it.
lock for you.
And then
Oh yes,
exactly.
we should just give parental control to our parents at this point, who are also addicted to Instagram. By the way, my mother is addicted to Facebook, I think.
Oh no, mine's
Yeah.
addicted to TikTok. I fully
Wow.
agree with you.
Who's going to control who at this point? No, I think social media, I love social media for the fact that it has opened up so much for us, and there are so many things I would not know had there been no social media and no content creators and things like that. But I think it's very important to snap out. I mean, and for that,
That's
yeah,
why
I
YouTube.
mean,
I think everyone should watch YouTube and not Instagram.
Everyone should log onto YouTube and start watching our podcast.
oh yeah, and
episode.
start watching the podcast, the long form content for that matter.
Exactly.
Learn something new.
Yeah.
No, but
Yes.
I think we are on the end of the podcast. I have two more questions to ask you
Yes.
actually. Personal curiosity. Like I think a lot of teenagers want to pursue entrepreneurship now. Now it's like glamorized on social media as well, so much so that everyone's like, I want to quit my 9 to 5 in the next 2 years and start something. They just do not know what they want to start. And even with me, for example, like I am interested in 10,000 things. I have an idea one day, but I hear some feedback and I do not have that in me to like start it. And when you started Chai Pani, you got rejected media articles and like put it on the blog. So how did you get to just start it? Like, what was that one thing which was like, this is it, I'm gonna like give this a shot no matter what happens now?
You have to start. Okay, there is no answer. There's no real answer to thinking a lot. The more you think, I think it paralyzes us in a certain way. The more you think, the more you will not do it. And I think a lot of time we use thinking as an excuse to not start as well. So I think the solution is to just start, and because unless you jump in the water, you're not going to swim, right? And you have to at least jump in the water first, because if you keep analyzing the chlorine level and the temperature of the water and the depth of the pool, I don't think we're going to, we humans don't operate that way. So I think you start, maximum is it will fail, right? And it's fine. I mean, we have to be just very comfortable from where we're coming from. So when I started Chai Pani, I started with the pretext that it's going to fail. I was dating a guy who told me he was an MBA from a very big college, and he told me, okay, this is like a hobby project. So many people have told me it was a hobby. I remember going to an event, a conference, where I said what I do, and I said I write stories about people who are doing good work, and they said, okay, yeah, this is a hobby. What do you do in the day? And I said, no, I do this as a day job. Yeah. So maximum, I think you start with the pretext that, okay, this is 99% going to fail. There's just 1% chance that it's going to work. But those 99%, even if it fails, is going to give me joy while I do it. Yeah. So it has to give you joy every single day is very important. And you try, it has to make money, it has to give you joy. I think 2 metrics are met. I think it's good enough. So you have to also align it with your core abilities for that matter. Like I knew my core ability was communication, was writing. I was a good writer. So I knew that if nothing works, I'll become a writer and I'll do something. I'll make my personal ends meet, and then I can make my team's ends meet. Yeah. So yeah, but I don't think waste too much time on market analysis and this and that. Just start. Maximum is it will not work. Give it good 2 years to figure out if it's going to work or not. Yeah. And always be open to pivot. I think when you start your ideas, sometimes we start with some place and it does not work, or maybe it works, but you have to be ready to pivot.
No, that's what I've learned, like in entrepreneurship school. Like they were like, never love the idea, love the problem, and let's just figure it out.
Yeah, because I think we need to become very obsessed with the problem. Like I am so obsessed with the problem of solving jobs that I've taken I think an unbelievable goal of like 1 lakh jobs, that I want to give 1 lakh jobs, and till then I'm not stopping. So 1 lakh people get jobs, or I keep doing this all my life. So I think I've given myself this huge number and a target, and I'm so obsessed with this problem that nothing else matters to me. That it works, it doesn't work, what people say about me, what they don't say about me, nothing. I don't care about anything. As long as I'm working towards that number.
I think one of your quotes from the TEDx talk that that we listened to just now spoke out to me. It's like, as long as you know, she's like, no. It's like, no, but I think it's really good though. It's like, as long as you know your why, the how will come along.
You will figure it out. You'll figure everything. You just need to know why I'm doing this, for what I'm doing this. Because I think there are enough resources in the whole world and enough good people in the whole world who will come together to build you up. So you just need to know your why, keep working towards that why, keep that one number in mind, one vision in mind, keep working towards that. And you may not know nothing. Like Malika, your father, you can talk to him at some point when he started, probably he'd know nothing about stock market or trading or anything, right? And he just had to make his ends meet, and he had to make money, and everything just comes together. Everything just
Expensive child.
She is an
We get
expensive
that.
person.
yes,
Yeah.
you should get him on the podcast at some point.
He'd actually make a really
You
good
just
guest.
bitch about how expensive I am.
No, tell him I'm working towards entrepreneurship. I'm going to become more self-dependent soon. No, but this is one thing I want. I want all girls, and I think a lot of men dislike that so much. I've had my friends who've had experiences while dating where they forgot that men don't like women who are independent. They like dependent women for some
Really?
reason. And yes, that's a huge
I know a few
change.
too. I know a few.
Yes, because it's very intimidating. I think for them, or I think they get a certain sense of self-esteem when somebody is dependent on them. But I still keep championing for the fact that all women should be independent. At least you should be able to make enough money for your expenses. When I started working because my father said so. My father is in HR, and he said we give a salary of 10,000 people, 10,000 rupees to people who are from humanities. And I said no, but I'm very expensive. I can't do in 10,000 rupees. And I had
More
to
than
make
that.
sure that I'm making enough money to take care of my expenses.
Yeah.
So I think at every point in time, it's very important for women to become financially independent, and as soon as possible.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think there's so much. I think we should create a club or something. I think there's so much women, or so many women, that whose ultimate aim is to achieve financial stability and independence. Yeah, I think that's a lot of women, I would say, would probably feel that way, right? Like, and I think as controversial as it sounds, women has a stricter biological clock as compared to men, right? With the whole uterus.
Kids and women also tend to live longer, by the way, than men. Statistically, women tend to live longer than men, so it's very important that we have enough money for our old age as well. Because, the men are going to die. Anyone who you are depending on is going to die at some point. So
Go on and on, Audrey. However, we have one last question to ask before we end it off.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
So, Shruti, to end off this amazing episode, we ask this question to every one of our guests, which is if you had to give one advice to any women out there, or anyone in their early 20s out there, to start a new company or just to figure out their 20s, what would that advice be? Any one piece of advice.
I think I would give it to anyone in their 20s very much, is because we are so clouded by what other people are saying about us, is to have your own clock, no biological clock, no financial clock, no social clock, just your clock, and only stick to that clock. Because the more you're going to match up to other people's clock, the more messed up your mind is going to be, and the more joy you are taking out of your 20s, because 20s, 30s, 40s, beautiful years, right? Like to live. And I think just have your own clock and stick to it. Have very solid noise cancellation, especially now with TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat and so much. Have very, very solid noise cancellation. Does not mean that you do not listen to other people's advices and their feedback, but always do what your gut is asking you to do. Sabka suno, listen to everyone, but do what your gut says, do what your intuition says.
Yeah, it's more about having faith in yourself, which is whatever.
Very important.
Yeah, and just
and to have joy every single day of your life. I mean, I have wasted my years where I have not had joy every single day, versus now, and I think I prioritize my daily joy a lot now, and I think that's important.
Yeah, that's really important.
Whatever you do, whatever entrepreneurship you pick up, whatever job you pick up, make sure that you're finding some joy in your life and whatever you're doing. Because it's a very small life that we have. It will just get taken any time. So it's very important that you are happy every day.
Right.
Yeah, I think I've spoke to a few people who sometimes tells me as well. They say I'm really worried about the future. Even I am, I'm worried about my own future, right? That sometimes we get so wrapped up in the worry of things that we just forget to miss out on the moment. Forget to cherish the present. Yeah.
So in Hindu culture, we have this thing called Satchidanand, where we say don't stick to the past, don't think about the future. It's very important to be in the present. And the more you are waiting for something for the future, or the more you are lingering onto the past, the more your aura basically weakens. So it's very important to be in the moment and to be happy and blissful in that moment. So yeah, don't worry a lot about the future. You just keep doing the action. In Bhagavad Gita also we say, right? Like, don't think about the results. Just focus on your karma, focus on what you're doing today. It may take you somewhere, not take you somewhere. It's fine. It's very important to do something today.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Well,
That's-
that was some solid advice right there, everyone. I think we have had a lovely conversation around a lot of things, which was to like basically like have intuition and like believe in your gut and have faith in yourself, understanding what you want to do, and it's okay to have your own timeline. And take your time to figure out what you really want to do and have a strong why towards it once you do.
Exactly. We covered a lot of topics today, from the struggles of the struggles of being in your early 20s and not understanding what exactly it is you want to do. I think we've covered that a lot. Malika and I, we've been on this journey where even ourselves sometimes we question about what we want to do, right? And the whole point of this podcast is for us to all go through it together and just discover ourselves together. And I hope
have faith in the process. Essentially.
And I hope that this podcast will be able to help that and help you in that aspect as well, to whoever who's listening today.
And just feel a bit more comfortable in your own skin and just having faith in yourself that you'll be fine, because it'll all be fine in the end. So don't worry.
Exactly. And I think today, we covered a really, really good few topics. We talked about the struggles of, starting a startup and feeling lost. And essentially, we did talk about having a safety net for yourself. And if you are not, unfortunately not privileged enough to have an existing safety net, I think it's very important you start building one for yourself, right? And have that courage to build that for yourself. I think that's very important if you want to get out of whatever situation you want to get out of today. So yeah.
But yeah, that was it. Shruti, thank you so much for taking out the time.
Thank you. You summarized it so well.
It is actually quite late in India and we've put her on hold, but you've been so kind. We had such a good time just speaking and like randomly just chatting about your journey. And we feel very inspired now. Like we feel very motivated to like just go out and find our whys and just like trust ourselves.
Exactly.
So thank you.
Thank you so much. Lovely speaking with you guys. We'll speak another time as well. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
So this is season 2, episode 5.
Yes, and today we unwinded social norms while being a successful entrepreneur in India.
Exactly. Building, going against society and, going against, how do you call it? Just going against the wind while climbing and aiming for what you really want.
Yeah, just going against the world and just having faith in yourself and what you do, and you will figure it out. We all do at some point. So yeah, we're in that journey with you, and we will be sharing a lot more of these stories in our coming episodes. So make sure you have subscribed to Let's Unwind if you have not yet. What are you waiting for? We have no clue. Subscribe now.
Like and comment.
All of those good things, you guys. Exactly. And tell us how you feel and tell us how you're liking all of these episodes so far. We have a lot more in stock and we would want to understand what you like, and then we'll change accordingly. So please tell us if these are helpful at all. But that's it for this video, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in like always, and we will see you in the next one. Much love.
Bye.
Bye.